Today, we need to talk about a decision that could reshape retirement in Britain and change what millions of people over 50 thought they knew about their future. The government has moved to review and, in some cases, scrap the long-standing expectation that retirement will begin at the age of 67. After months of speculation, ministers have confirmed that a full reassessment of the state pension age is underway, raising new questions about whether people will retire later, how soon these changes could take effect, and what that means for anyone planning to step back from work in the next decade. For a generation that has spent years planning around a fixed number, this news has struck a nerve. It feels like the rules are changing just as people thought they finally understood them. The announcement, made in the summer of 2025, confirmed that the Department for Work and Pensions is looking again at the entire structure of the state pension system. The current law sets the state pension age at 66 for both men and women, with a scheduled rise to 67 between April 2026 and April 2028. Beyond that, previous plans called for another rise to 68 between the years 2044 and 2046. That timeline gave people breathing space. It allowed workers in their 50s today to assume they would still retire at 67. But this new review could pull that timeline forward dramatically. Government advisors are now exploring whether the shift to 68 should happen far earlier, possibly within the late 2030s, and whether further increases could follow after that. The message is clear: the age of 67 may not be the stable benchmark many were counting on. This development has not come out of nowhere. Officials have pointed to several reasons for the review, and all of them are tied to deep, long-term changes in the country's population and finances. Life expectancy, though it has leveled off slightly in recent years, is still much higher than it was when the modern pension system was created. A man retiring today is likely to live, on average, to his mid-80s, and a woman may live several years longer. When you multiply those extra years across millions of pensioners, the cost of the state pension becomes enormous. The government spends more than £110 billion a year on state pension payments, and that figure keeps rising. At the same time, the number of people of working age paying national insurance contributions is not growing fast enough to cover that cost. Fewer workers are supporting more retirees, and that imbalance is forcing hard choices. There's another issue too: private savings. Nearly half of working-age adults in Britain are not contributing regularly to a private pension. That means many people will rely primarily on the state pension as their main source of income when they retire. The full new state pension is around £11,500 per year, depending on national insurance record. That's a modest amount. For anyone without extra savings, even a one-year delay in being able to claim it can cause serious financial strain. The government argues that by raising the retirement age, it encourages people to work longer, keep contributing, and lessen the pressure on public finances. Critics, however, say that this approach punishes those in physically demanding jobs, those with poor health, and those who started working young. Imagine someone born in August 1965. Under current rules, they would reach the state pension age of 67 in the summer of 2032. They might have mapped out everything based on that date: when to stop working, when to draw on private savings, when to pay off the mortgage. Now they're hearing that the goalposts might shift again. If the new review concludes that the rise to 68 should happen sooner, this person could be forced to wait another year before claiming what they have already paid for through decades of national insurance. That one extra year might sound small, but for anyone living on tight margins or caring for family members, it could make the difference between comfort and struggle. It is not just numbers and policy papers. This affects real people's lives. Think of Mary, a nurse from Nottingham, who started working in the early 1980s. She has already lived through the equalization of women's pension ages, the slow rise from 60 to 66, and the uncertainty around the triple lock. She planned to retire at 67, after more than 40 years of work. She was looking forward to spending time with her grandchildren and maybe taking a modest trip abroad each summer. If that pension age rises to 68, she faces another year of long shifts, another year of standing on her feet, another year of trying to balance work with health and family responsibilities. Multiply Mary's story by millions, and you begin to see why this update has caused such alarm. The government insists that nothing is final. Ministers say that any change to the pension age will be made with proper notice, usually at least 10 years, so that people have time to prepare. Yet many feel that the direction of travel is clear. Retirement is being pushed further out of reach. It raises uncomfortable questions about fairness between generations. Those who retired in their 60s during the 1990s or early 2000s often benefited from generous final salary pensions and a lower pension age. Younger workers, by contrast, are facing a future where they may have to work into their late 60s or early 70s for smaller relative returns. There's also a deep regional divide in how these changes are felt. In parts of the country where life expectancy is lower, for example, in some areas of the Northeast or Scotland, people may spend fewer years in retirement even though they've paid the same contributions as someone in a wealthier area who lives longer. For someone whose job involves heavy manual labor, extending the retirement age feels like moving the finish line further away, just as they're running out of breath. Economists talk about longevity risk, but for many, it's not an abstract concept. It's their body telling them they can't keep going. Behind the scenes, civil servants are weighing several options. One proposal is to accelerate the rise to 68 so that it happens between 2036 and 2038 instead of a decade later. Another idea being discussed is to link the pension age more directly to life expectancy, meaning that as average lifespans increase, the pension age would automatically rise without the need for separate legislation. There are even discussions about allowing a form of flexible state pension access, where people could choose to claim earlier for a reduced amount or later for a higher one. None of this has been finalized, but it shows that the government is looking for ways to manage costs without triggering public backlash. Financial experts are already advising people over 50 to reassess their plans. If you were expecting to retire at 67, it might be wise to check your national insurance record, estimate your private pension income, and see how an extra year or two of work could affect your savings. Even if you don't plan to keep a full-time job, maintaining some part-time income or self-employment could bridge the gap. Working one extra year could add several £1,000s to your private pension pot and delay the need to draw from it. For example, someone who continues working for just 12 more months, earning £30,000 and contributing 10% to a pension, adds £3,000 plus tax relief and investment growth, a small step that could help cushion the blow of a delayed state pension. However, not everyone has the option to keep working. Health problems, caring responsibilities, or redundancy can make it impossible to continue beyond a certain age. For those individuals, the idea of waiting longer for their state pension feels like a punishment. Many campaign groups are calling for exceptions for people who have worked in physically demanding occupations or who have built up long contribution histories, for instance, 45 years or more. There's a moral argument here. If someone started paying national insurance at 16, should they really have to wait until 68 or beyond to receive what they've earned? The debate has also reignited anger among the women affected by previous pension changes, the so-called WASPI generation. These are women born in the 1950s who were not given clear notice about the equalization of pension ages and found themselves having to work several years longer than expected. Many of them feel that the government is repeating the same mistake, not providing enough clarity or time for people to adjust. While ministers insist that this time there will be consultation and transparency, trust is fragile. People who have been burned once are wary of being caught out again. One of the subtler consequences of a higher retirement age is its effect on the job market. If people stay in work longer, that can be positive for experience and continuity, but it can also limit opportunities for younger workers trying to move up. Businesses may need to rethink how they manage older employees, offering more flexible hours, health support, and retraining. The average British workplace was not designed for employees in their late 60s, yet that may soon become normal. The government says it wants to support longer working lives, but that will only succeed if employers play their part too. Then there's the psychological side of retirement. For decades, the age of 65 was the magic number. It carried a sense of closure, a promise that after a lifetime of work, you could finally rest. Pushing that milestone to 67, and now possibly 68 or beyond, is not just a financial adjustment, it's an emotional one. People measure their lives by these markers. To tell someone in their early 60s that the finish line has moved can feel like moving the goalposts of their entire life story. It challenges their sense of control, their hopes, and their plans for how they will spend their later years. There are also wider economic implications. If more people have to work longer, it may reduce early retirement spending, which in turn affects the broader economy. Fewer retirees mean fewer people traveling, renovating homes, or volunteering. On the other hand, if older workers stay active, they continue to pay taxes and contribute to society. The balance between personal well-being and national budgets is delicate. That's why this review is about more than just numbers. It's about what kind of society we want to be, and how we value those who have already given decades of service. What's crucial now is awareness. Many people over 50 still assume that the state pension age is fixed. It isn't. It's under review, and changes could come sooner than many realize. By the time the government publishes its conclusions, expected sometime in the next year, the groundwork for new legislation may already be in place. For that reason, staying informed is not just helpful, it's essential. Every person approaching retirement should take the time to understand how the system works, what they're entitled to, and how potential changes could affect their plans. It's worth remembering that the state pension remains one of the most valuable benefits available. Even though it's modest in amount, it's inflation-linked through the triple lock system, which promises to increase payments each year by whichever is highest earnings growth, inflation, or 2.5%. In recent years, this guarantee has helped pensions rise faster than wages, but it also makes the system more expensive to maintain. There are quiet rumors that the triple lock itself could come under review in the next Parliament, adding yet another layer of uncertainty. For someone nearing retirement, that uncertainty can be unsettling. But forewarned is forearmed. So where does that leave us? The government's review of the retirement age is not yet complete, but the direction is clear. Retirement at 67 may no longer be guaranteed, and the shift to 68 could arrive earlier than anyone expected. For those in their 50s or early 60s, that means taking a fresh look at their finances, health, and future plans. It means talking to family, seeking advice, and preparing for the possibility that the finish line may move again. It also means demanding transparency from those in power, because after a lifetime of work, people deserve clarity, not confusion. In the months ahead, we will likely hear more statements, leaked proposals, and parliamentary debates about this issue. There will be strong opinions on both sides. Some will argue that longer lives make higher pension ages inevitable. Others will insist that fairness and compassion should come first. Whichever view you hold, what's certain is that the conversation about retirement in Britain has entered a new phase. It's no longer just about when we stop working. It's about how we value aging, contribution, and security. If you are over 50, now is the time to stay alert, informed, and ready. The decisions being made in Westminster today could define the next chapter of your life. Keep an eye on official announcements. Talk openly about your retirement plans. And don't assume the system will stay the same. The government may call this a review, but for millions of people, it feels like the beginning of a new and uncertain era. And if you value staying ahead of these developments, if you want clear, no-nonsense updates that affect your money and your future, then take a moment to support this channel and subscribe. The more informed you are, the better prepared you'll be to protect your plans, your savings, and your retirement. Because this story is not just about policy, it's about your life, your choices, and the years you've worked so hard to earn.